So what we wanted to do with the work that we've been doing is to have a look at how protein expression across the Alzheimer's disease brain changes. We know that different regions respond differently to disease and at different rates. So what we did is we took human brain tissue from post-mortem samples and we excised 6 different regions, some that are heavily affected by Alzheimer's disease and some which are less affected by Alzheimer's disease. And we used mass spectrometry approaches to compare protein levels in the AD cases versus the controls. And we saw a range of different proteins changing. Obviously the most affected regions showed the most level of protein changes, but we could actually detect a gradient of protein changes between the most and the least affected regions, which makes us believe that those later affected regions are actually just on the same disease process but earlier. So they probably represent early Alzheimer's disease related changes. So the spatial proteomics is interesting because we know that the brain responds differently in different regions, and yet in a lot of the literature you will see we took brain samples and it's not always possible to know which particular region is being studied. And obviously it affects therapeutic methods going forwards. There's no point in treating a target which is only present in one region when actually you're trying to treat the entire organ. So we believe that looking at different regions of the brain going forward is the key to deciphering what's going on in Alzheimer's disease. So in the lab at the moment we're trying to progress. We've identified new disease targets, so we're trying to validate whether they're present in larger cohorts of patients, and we're also starting to have a look at earlier and earlier changes. So one of the things that our work found is that in our control patients who didn't have symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, in a couple of those patients we actually identified higher levels of A-beta, which is the marker for Alzheimer's disease, and also some Alzheimer's disease related changes. And so we're now trying to acquire funding to have a look at asymptomatic people who don't have symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, but to see if we can find early sort of pre-disease changes in their brains.